when you're at your highest moment in your career, that's when the devil's going to get you. To any level of success is putting up with and enduring unknowns.
Confidence, which comes from success often, really does create blind spots. And that's something I think about so much. Like, how do I stay aware of those blind spots in my life that, you know, the success I've had in various areas has undeniably created? And honestly, a lot of it, I just go, just save loads of money, Steve, because the day you're wrong, you don't want to go broke.
I often think about that. Like, whenever the curtain comes down on my career, I want to make sure that I can say, like, hey, thank you for letting me have this. I'm so grateful for it, but I've saved enough that, like, I'm ready to pass the baton to someone else. And that's a form of humility too. There's a quote from Denzel Washington where he's talking to Will Smith after Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Remember that whole debacle? After that show, Denzel Washington comes up to Will Smith and he says, Will, when you're at your highest moment in your career, that's when the devil's going to get you. And it's like when your career is so high and you're so famous, and you think so highly of yourself that you can do anything, that's when you're going to get yourself into trouble.
What a powerful quote.
And I think just paying attention to that, that's the natural humility that goes into it. And it's not false humility. It's not like, false humility is like, I didn't do any of this. I just got lucky. That's all false humility. I think real humility is like, I built this through hard work and I made some good decisions, but I'm just a guy. I'm as fallible as anybody else. I think that's not just important. I think that's critical to any amount of sustainable success.
You taught me that the price you pay to be wealthy is the volatility you have to incur along the way. It's kind of how I think about it in my head.
That's the cost of admission.
To being wealthy and
to any level of success is putting up with and enduring unknowns and volatility and booms and busts and the other bullshit that you put up with in the investing market and in your career and in your relationships. There's always a cost for anything good in life. There's a cost that you have to pay. Like, of course, nothing's free like that. But most of the costs that you pay they don't have a price tag that you can just measure very cleanly. Like, the cost of doing well in investing is putting up with volatility. The cost of a successful career might be long hours where you are pulled away from your family. The cost of a relationship is like always needing to sacrifice and compromise for the other person. Nothing is ever free. And so much of the success in life is just identifying what the cost is and being willing to pay it. Because for all of those things I just laid out, investing, career, relationships, the cost of admission is worth it. Putting up with the volatility is worth it over time. Because if you can put up with the stock market falling 30%, if you can just say, it's not that big a deal, I'm just going to hold tight, 10 years from now, the cost is well worth doing that.
You'll be rich.
If you can put up with the compromise that takes to have a successful relationship, by and large, that's going to be a cost that's worth paying. Because like, so much of what matters in life is just the relationships that you have. And once you identify the cost of that relationship, you're like, I'll pay that cost all day long. It's so worth it.
This requires you to be cognizant of time horizons and your own time horizons, which is something you talk a lot about in chapter 16 of The Psychology of Money. Why is it important for us to know our time horizons? And what do you mean by time horizon?
It's the amount of time between now and whatever your goal is, which is very different for everybody. Not just by your age, but like if you want to retire early or whatever, it'd be like everyone's going to have a slightly different time horizon.
What's yours?
Mine, you would break it up into different chunks. Like, I want to get to a point, or maybe I'm nearing a point in my career where I'm just doing things because I enjoy them. There's really no financial incentive to what I'm doing. That's one time horizon. Another is like, okay, once my kids start getting older, I want to make sure that like I'm always there for them when they need me. Teenage years are so difficult for people. Like, I'm 24/7, I'll be there for you, which means I'm gonna have to pull back. There's gonna be a point where I just say, look, I've accomplished what I want to with writing, and I want to be able to move on to something else. And there's going to be a point where I say, I really don't want to work that much anymore. I just want to move on. And maybe I need to take care of my parents. So like, there's multiple different time horizons at different goals of your life.